time to get overly excited and tell you why you need to pick up one of these League battle decks immediately. What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So for those of you who don't know, or this might be your fourth or fifth time tuning in, I absolutely adore the League battle decks. We did Mew back in November. Last year we covered Ice Rider in July, which is still one of my favorite decks. Palkia is up there with the Ice Rider in terms of you should really pick this up. I've purchased not one,
not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven.
Okay, maybe five copies of this deck, and they are on the way. But I wanted to share with you today my thoughts, how to upgrade it early out of the box. So if you enjoy the content, be sure to drop a like, comment below what you think, and let me know if you'll be picking up this deck as we go forward. So another thing I want to try, please let me know what you think. I've decided to color code the sleeves with copies of the cards that I already have. So blue is safe, yellow is included in the deck, but cards that I've considered cutting in the initial drafts of the list. I have been playing with Palkia a lot lately. Also, it's the alternate art, but here's the artwork that comes out of the box. So Palkia Vstar is a 280 hit point V-Star Pokemon with the attack Subspace Swell. This Pokemon does 20 more damage for each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent. So full bench on your side and a full bench on your opponent's side. It does 260 damage, no mods, no joke. That's silly good. That's really good. But the V-Star power is what makes this card a card you should invest in now and get your hands on, because there's a lot of good support coming. So Star Portal says during your turn you can attach up to 3 water energy cards from your discard pile to your water Pokemon in any way you like. That right there sells water type for me. Then there's a ton of crazy support coming down the line. See, what do you get right out of the box? So right out of the box, you get 3 copies of the terrific Palkia V. It has a second attack that does 200 for 3 energy, but it cannot attack the next turn. That's okay, you get 3 base ones. If you notice alternate arts from what you get in the box, please note that I'm using my cards because I didn't want to wait 2 or 3 weeks to talk about how excited I am for this product. 2 copies of Palkia Vstar out of the box. That's not bad. It's weird that they broke up the evolution line as such, but it is what it is. We're getting 3 copies of World Champion Bidoof, featured in the 2022 World Championship ADP deck. We're here for Industrious Incisors. So we're getting a 3/3. Once during your turn, you may draw until you have 5 cards in hand. If you have multiple on the bench, you can use multiple. A $15 card, the last time I went looking, was Radiant Greninja. So once during your turn, discard an energy card from your hand, draw 2. Moonlight Shuriken for water colorless, which can be powered up by Palkia. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, and you can do 90 to 2 targets. Wow. Okay. The combo potential is very easy to see. Very easy to see. But how do we protect against that? Well, the deck includes Manaphy for the mirror match, or for pretty much any matchup, because Radiant Greninja is a must-have card. Doesn't matter if you play Palkia, doesn't matter what you play. Radiant Greninja is almost an auto-include in all decks at the moment. Homies to gather the crew. This is a nice starter card. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench. Nice, but not quite. We did get 1 copy of Echoing Horn. So you can put a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile onto the bench. Very cool. They gave us quite a bit of useful cards. Trekking Shoes, 4 of. It's hard to find last year. Look at the top card of your deck. If you like it, put it in your hand. If you don't, discard it, draw another card. Okay, so that's just kind of a dig more card. Last year at this time, they were impossible to find. Ultra Ball. So discard 2 cards from your hand, search for any Pokemon, put it into your hand. And these hot commodities, pre-sale of this deck, we're going for about $4 a copy. Battle VIP Pass. You can only use it during the first turn of the game. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench. So they give you a play set, which is nice. Between the Greninja, the VIP Pass, that was the cost of the deck for me before sale, so I thought it was worth it just alone in those. It's usually the value in the deck that makes me want to pick up multiple copies of it, and if you feel like you need to go to that extent, by all means. I like to build a ton of decks and always have them on hand to play with and shuffle through, so I don't have to flip sleeves and whatnot. So anyway, sidetracked. We get 2 copies of Energy Search. Straight up, just go through your deck, grab a basic energy, put it into your hand. That's always cool. They gave us 2 copies of Hisuian Heavy Ball. I think this is a card that should, personally, find a way to stay in the format, just like Professor's Research and Boss. So it says, look at your face down prize cards, reveal a basic Pokemon you find there, put it into your hand, replace this card with your, that prize. Some players forget to deck check, and if you have a heavy ball in your opening hand, or you can search it, it's very easy to identify and then write down in your notepad which prizes are, and it makes winning the game a little easier. So I always love including at least one of. We get 2 copies of Switch. It does what it says. 3 copies of Choice Belt. So they do not hit Pokemon EX, which is fine, but Palkia caps at 260. All of the Pokemon Vstar that are in the format, including Palkia's, cap at 280. So it's nice to have the belt to finish them off. This is another high value card. Last year, when Palkia was at its apex, this card here had peaked at almost $9 a copy. Irida. Search your deck for a water Pokemon and an item card, reveal them, put them into your hand. It gives you the full 4. Again, I have some of them here, some of them on the way, and I will have tons of them when the decks come in a couple weeks. 3 copies of Melanie. I love Melanie, so I just had to have them. Attach a water energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon V. If you do this, draw 3 cards. So this accelerates that. Very powerful. You're not reliant entirely on Star Portal, so you can kind of look into Radiant Greninja as another attacker. The deck also gives another format staple in Boss's Orders. So Cyrus Art Preferred, Getsis, Lysander, Giovanni. Switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. That's not a card going anywhere anytime soon. Having 3 copies of those in the deck. Usually you want 2. 3 is more of a luxury, so you do have an extra one in most cases. We have 1 copy of Roxanne. When your opponent has 3 or fewer prizes remaining, each player shuffles their hand in. You draw 6, they draw 2. So we're getting better disruption in the next set, but right now it's kind of a must include. 1 copy of Clara. It's our best means of recovery at the moment. So choose 1 or both. Put up to 2 Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand and 2 energy from your discard pile into your hand. So Radiant Greninja, Ultra Balls, you name it, Pokemon, that's our main means of recovery in this deck. It also, for whatever reason, I guess stadiums are a little rough at the moment, gave us 2 copies of Lake Acuity. So it says any of your Pokemon that have water or fighting energy attached to them take 20 less damage after applying weakness or resistance. So yes, it does make Palkia a 300 hit point Pokemon, but again, stadiums can be bumped. I guess it's a path to the peak counter. It's not my go-to stadium, but it's there, so I think that's kind of nice. And then of course we have 9 water energy, which is probably the fewest I've ever seen in a League battle deck. So, do I think you should buy this? Yes. Radiant Greninja was going for half the cost of the deck alone. Palkias are about $3 to $4 now, probably after the release of the deck. They were like $8, $9. That's what I was picking them up for. Ultra Balls, Trekking Shoes, Battle, VIP Pass, Energy Search, all staples in the format. All cards that were once difficult to find. They were $5 to $6 a copy for VIP Pass. Tad ridiculous, I know, but again, that's what the market was putting them for. So you get your value off Greninja, VIP, Palkia, and Ultra Balls. That right there is a pickup for me. Then you get your Iridas. Water is on the upswing, and Paldea Evolved. And what is that set we've got coming in August? It's either the August set or our holiday set are going to introduce even more good water Pokemon. So Irida is something you want to have on hand. Melanie will get worse over time. However, Palkia will always be good, so it's nice to have for Palkia or for Arceus or for whatever that wants to play water energy. So how many you should buy? Totally up to you. I went a little overboard and picked up 5 copies of the deck. So now I'm going to scoop everything up and I'm going to cut forward and show you where I made my changes. So anything in yellow, if you take a quick look, does not make the next cut. All right, and we are back. So I've got my upgrades. As you can notice, I'm going to start with the Pokemon here. I think the Pokemon line is the best and most fun part to talk about because each choice impacts your matchups and what you're aiming to beat. So we're going to keep the 3 Palkia. So in my playtesting, Palkia has been the best attacker in the deck, so it's worth picking up a second copy of the deck to get more hands on Palkias. I've gone up to 3-3 because Palkia is by far your best attacker in the deck, and I also want to reliably have access to Star Portal. Sometimes we have to discard one, it's just the nature of the game, but having at least 2 attackers is the reasoning behind that. Again, I mentioned them before, I can't give them up, no. We are keeping 2 of the Ice Rider Calyrex V. So again, It's not here for its V, it is here for its V Max. So this was my favorite combination of cards to play through 2022. Didn't matter the format, didn't matter. These were my favorites. Ice Rider Calyrex V Max plays into the water elements of the deck. It plays into Star Portal of Palkia Vstar, but provides an alternative weakness and a slightly thicker body. Its main attack, Max Lance, does 10 damage, and if you discard up to 2 energy, it does 120 for each that you discard. So for 2 energy, it does 250. Palkia does 260 if the bench is wide. You throw in a choice spell, Calyrex is hitting that magic 280 number, and I think that is still relevant, which is why I have it in there. Sometimes they just can't beat over it, and you can get 4 prizes out of it. It's nice. So I couldn't give up that horse yet. Had to go back to the Old Town Road. We are playing 2 copies of Bibarel. So the Industrious Incisors engine is useful, but I really don't think you ever need 3 in the deck unless your entire goal is to burn to the bottom of your deck as quickly as possible, and not many decks want to do that. Then we are playing 2 of the Crown Zenith. These are about like 20-cent cards, so don't fret. Bidoofs. So remember the Mana Fee that protects your bench? Well, in this deck, there's a lot of chonky bodies that can take a hit from the bench, and the big ones that really need protecting were your Bidoofs. So these ones here have their own bench barrier ability built in, which is why I prefer these ones over the other ones. I do love the artwork from the other one, but I had to go with this one. And there's also a really nice gallery version of this card, so that's on my list to pick up. Big fan. And of course, you'd be crazy to cut Radiant Greninja. Must include all water decks. As soon as you see the blue symbol in the corner, Greninja's an auto include, and then it's 59 other cards. And this is where I've got some other includes. So we've got Squovit from the Scarlet and Violet base set. Nest Stash lets you take your hand, shuffle it, put it at the bottom of your deck, draw 1 card, and then you can top up with a Bibarel. So if you don't like your hand, but you don't want to throw any of it away, or it's not doing you any favors, toss it to the bottom, drop Industrious Incisors your way back to 5, you're back in the game. You've got resources, you've got Dig. I've had so many people message me playing in online tournaments going, wow, that's a really good engine. I think it's slept on right now, but it is slowly picking up in play. So get those now. We are playing 1 copy of the Fish. So Luminion, when you play it out from your hand onto your bench, let you search for a supporter. We're usually searching for Irida, occasionally searching for Melanie, but in that late game, you want to be able to search for boss. And something I've been watching in other interviews, because I am just as much a fan as I am a player, the better players always say you want to get into the game. You want to have a chance to get into the game. If you have Luminion in your deck, you can always get into the game, assuming you don't start it, because it's an Ultra Ball away from a supporter. So you have your 4 supporters, you have your Luminion, and you have your 4 Ultra Balls. That's 9 ways of getting into the game, and I think that's really nice. We are, of course, playing 1 copy of Drapion V. This deck struggles into Mew. I learned that one the hard way. We just don't cleanly hit 310, which is unfortunate, but just the way it goes. I will take that any day of the week. Drapion takes care of Mew. If you feel like Mew is more prevalent, this next card can become a second Drapion, but it is Suicune V. So I was playing the Lost Box matchup, and ignore the pretty art. You don't need that one. The base one is only like $2. It has an ability that lets you draw a card if it's in the active, but it has a baby Palkia Vstar attack, so it does 20 damage, plus 20 more for each bench Pokemon in play, so caps at 220 instead of Palkia's 260. There are turns where I'm playing against Lost Box, or your opponent puts a Luminion or something in the active and they spread their bench out. You can apply pressure turn 1, and that's why Suicune's here. If you don't think it's necessary, it's the first card you can cut. By all means, I'm not gonna be like, oh no, you have to play this. We are playing 10 energy. Let's see, how do we lay this one across? We're always having fun, so just because you know people are gonna ask, and I don't want to spend too much time. So the deck gives you 9. The 10th one is more or less, I've been playing it, Japan's been running 10 in their water decks. I just found 9 wasn't enough. You're going to prize 2 or 3 of them, and you're going to discard a handful of them. We're not playing Energy Recycler, so I wanted 10. That's my big thing, is just 9 wasn't enough. We're playing 2 copies of Lost City as our stadium of choice. So if they're playing Mana Fee and we want to take advantage of Radiant Greninja, them constantly re-benching that Mana Fee after we kill it is very annoying. So we want to put it in the Lost Zone. We want to have a stadium bump for Star Portal, or for Luminion, or for Drapion. and Lost City just allows us to be aggressive and take care of those attackers. If they're playing Radiant Charizard, the other popular Radiant Pokemon, you don't want them to have multiple uses of it. Deal with it, take it out, so long, goodbye. We're playing 2 copies of Choice Belt. So 3 felt excessive in most games. 260 gets you over the line. 250 from Calyrex is a nice bop. U is, math doesn't matter. Suicune's usually hitting those non-evolved or evolving basic Pokemon V, so it's not worried about it there. Alright, so back to the supporter line. I go on tangents and kind of explain the thought process through the deck as we go, but I do get sidetracked. 4 Irida. So, again, this was an $8 card. You bet your ass I am including 4 of. We really don't touch much. We are keeping 3 copies of Melody. Okay, so being able to grab it off Lumineon when we need it, or naturally draw into it, 3 is the sweet spot. 4 was excessive. I can totally justify 4, but with Lumineon, we could free up a spot and put something else in, so I didn't max out at 4. We are playing 2 copies of Boss's Orders. Don't worry about not having the 3rd with the Lumineon. It is searchable. We really only need 1 or 2, and that kind of gets us there anyway. So this is going to be a fun layout. How do we get there? The S1. So Roxanne is a must-include essential. When you're playing a Lost Box player and they're sitting there with about 18, 19 cards in hand, you have to have a response for that. They take the Calyrex VMAX knockout. You have to be able to Roxanne break that hand up. Otherwise, you lose. There's no response. They can knock out the Calyrex, they get Sky Seal Stone, your Palkia, that's game. You can't let them do that. Do not let them do that. Lost Box has had it too good for too long. Last, we've got 4 Ultra Ball. Best search in the game. Really, no arguments there. 3 copies of Nest Ball. I'm hoping the price comes down in the coming weeks, but Nest Ball is like Battle VIP Pass, but it can be played throughout the game. Multiple turns, search for basic, put it directly onto your bench. Please don't search your Lumineon with this card. That's the only card you should not be searching with Nest Ball, okay? 2 Battle VIP Pass. So the deck gave us 4. I like 2. My problem was when I was playing a full 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Battle VIP, in the 3rd and 4th turns of the game, I couldn't get them out of my hand. So when I was getting Roxanne and drawing 2 cards off my deck, I was drawing 2 VIP Pass. It absolutely sucked. 1 of the Hisuian Heavy Ball. So again, I think for newer players, you should really consider including this almost in all lists until you are familiar with prize mapping. It's a lazy way of saying, oh, what's in my prizes? Without, counting every single card in your deck. I've seen players try to be like, oh, I don't need it, I don't need that. Like, I know what my deck is, and then I play against them, and they're like, oh man, if only I didn't prize this. And it's like, yeah, but you would have known that early, and you've had to adjust your game plan. So it's a teaching tool, and then once you get comfortable with the game, it can be a cuttable spot. So, and then we're playing the 2 copies of Energy Search. It's searchable off Irida, so being able to go Irida, Water Pokemon, Energy Search, great. It feeds into Star Portal, feeds into Draw, feeds into Tutor. So I couldn't see myself cutting it at this point. 2 copies of Switch. We just need to be able to move our stuff around. 1 copy of the Escape Rope. So Escape Rope is for those old rope-a-dope plays. There's 1 deck on my mind in particular that Escape Rope always finds at least a 1 of into my deck. You can always go 2 Escape Rope, 1 Switch for this 1 particular deck. Goodra Vstar. Goodra Vstar, I'm going to pop that on screen. It's a very annoying Pokemon with their Rolling Iron attack. It reduces damage taken to it by 80 damage, but it's only a 270 hit point body. So in order to reset the effect of that Pokemon or reset the effect of anything on the active, we need to push it to the bench. Escape Rope lets us push it to the bench, and then we can Boss's Orders it back. And when that Goodra comes back into play, it's only a 270 hit point body. That Calyrex, I would say Palkia, but Palkia knows that Goodra's not going to have a full bench to deal with it. So it's Calyrex can deal with it. Goodra is one of the best decks in format, and you should be able to Escape Rope, boss it up. Deal with it that way. Do not cut the Escape Rope. If anything, put a second one in. We're going to play 1 copy of Palpad. This lets us shuffle our supporters back into our deck. Sometimes you want a 4th Melody. You always want a 2nd Roxanne, but sitting on the 2nd one is, what do they call that in the other game? Garnets? Like a dead card. So as soon as you draw it, it's a dead card. Palpad just lets us put them back, gets in there. It provides some flexibility throughout the game. So some games you're more aggressive and you want a third and fourth boss. Other games you want a fourth or fifth Melanie. Other games you want a second Roxanne. It's just there for that. I'm also have it in there. And last but not least is Lost Vacuum. So we're playing a very light stadium count. You could play a third one over this. How do you search it? Honestly, how do you search it? We're playing Irida almost every single turn. One of those cards you can grab as your item is your Lost Vacuum. It thins down your hand too when you put something in the Lost Zone. So you can get rid of a tool, you can get rid of a stadium, or if Mew tries to put down a 4-seal stone, path lock you, and then you have Irida, you can actually get rid of their 4-seal stone. You can mess with their tool cards, you can mess with their damage, anything along those lines, and there will be turns where if they only had like 10 hit points left and there's a tool or something giving them health, you can knock them out mid-turn, take your prizes, and keep chugging along. So I do think Lost Vacuum should see one of in play where you're playing Irida. I also want to tease the upcoming deck in July. So Chen Pao is one of the beasts coming in Paldea Evolved. There's also a Baxcalibur line. I'm just gonna float them on screen, you can take a look, but those two cards definitely will shape how Water is played. Palkia is an essential, Radiant Greninja is an essential, Barrel is a very strong engine, and having your Iridas now, having your Ultra Balls now, having a lot of the staples from this deck now will help you build towards those. So consider this the building block deck. This is the deck of the now, and I've already got a deck built in a coming video with Chen Pao, Palkia. So until next time, guys, take care.